everyone to this One Planet webinar. My name is Eric Dargent from WWF. This One Planet webinar series is part of One Planet Leaders, which is our business, education, innovation, and leadership initiative. We develop and run programs in partnership with leading business schools, IMD in Switzerland, the University of Exeter in the UK, and starting this year, the University of Cape Town. We also offer customized in-company trainings, and obviously in these programs, a company that we very often make reference to is Interface. Almost 20 years after Interface embarked on Mission Zero under the leadership of Ray Anderson, Interface has indeed become one of the most iconic companies when it comes to innovation for sustainability. And that's why we are delighted to welcome to this webinar Raman Aratia, Sustainability Director for Interface, Europe, Middle East, Africa, and India. Raman has an academic background in chemistry, an MSc in quality and environment, and also holds an MBA from Warwick Business School. And he's worked for 13 years in CSR and sustainability for Ericsson, Vodafone, and Interface. And he is a man who knows what is real and what is not when it comes to sustainability. In short, his message is cut the fluff out of sustainability, which is also the name of Interface's blog on sustainability, of which he's a co-author, and the subtitle of his recent book. Raman, it's a real pleasure to have you here today. I will be back with you at the end to facilitate the Q&A sessions and talk about our coming session, but over to you for now.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Vanessa. Hi, everybody. I'd like to talk a little bit today about the journey that we started in 1994 and share some of the thoughts, looking in with hindsight on what we have learned. Just a quick slide on Interface. So you can see who is this company. This is the company who had this idea to cut the carpet into squares so that they can be easily installed, and it was founded in '73, and it became a huge $1 billion company by the '90s. And what happened in 1994 is that we started to get some questions from our customers, these green architects, mainly from California at that time. They were asking questions about what do you do for the environment. And these guys from Georgia didn't have any answer. They just say, we obey the law. And our founder and CEO at that time, Ray Anderson, was tasked with the idea to produce a workshop to tell, to set up a strategy with the rest of the, some key people internally to have a strategy on sustainability. And one of the things, Ray was thinking is that, people like him would go to jail because he understood that having a process where we take stuff from the earth, make products, and we just fill the landfill all over the world, that wasn't sustainable. And he read the book of Paul Hawken, The Ecology of Commerce, and he was totally changed by understanding how bad the impact of his industry, an industry where every single raw material came from oil, was. And you know how the Americans are. They went for Mission Zero. Yay, woo! That's how the Americans are, very optimistic, and they go for big things. And I'd like to reflect first on why going for something that impossible has been tremendously transformative for us. How do we set up targets in Europe? We say, what is technically feasible? 20%, let's go for 15. This is how we set up targets in Europe. And it's not very transformative for two reasons. One is because we want to be sure that we comply with the target. And second, because we ask the question, what is technically feasible? And what is technically feasible restrains you, constrains you to what is technically feasible today. What is technically feasible with the technology of today? What is technically feasible with the technology that your people, your geeks, your IT, and your technical people in the organization know today? And obviously, this is how, sadly, a lot of targets are set up. And this seemingly naive target of going for something impossible helped us to push the boundaries and to look for, not for the easy and the quick wins, but look at really challenging our production, challenging our products, challenging all our processes, and that's where you have the most leverage. This is some of the things we have achieved. I won't talk through all of them, but it's not the 10% or 15% that the cynical Spaniard like me would achieve. And at that point, I like to stop just for a while and think about what is happening today in sustainability, in the sustainability movement. And I see that many companies and in many occasions we're still talking about the old corporate sustainability paradigm, where we try to make companies slightly less bad, and it's become a beauty contest to see which company is more sustainable, and it's a lot of branding, a lot of competition in that beauty contest. It's a competition, it's a contest on who wins most awards. It's a contest on who has more labels and more CSR reports. And you can see that there are awards already on who has the best report, who has the best assurance statement in the report, who has the best design in the report. And it's a self-serving community where we are all part of that. And there is an industry, a self-serving industry, to sell boxes to tick to companies. And the focus has been companies. Why? Because there are many consultants and there are many people in the industry just trying to get money from companies. But if you look at where the real impacts of companies are, it's not in their boundaries. It's in the life cycle of their products. Most of the impacts are either in the suppliers of the suppliers of the suppliers, or how the customers use the products and throw them away. That's where we need to go from a corporate sustainability paradigm to a product sustainability paradigm, where the first question we ask to a company is, what do you produce? And what is the impact of what do you produce? And it's about, for something as simple as a carpet tile, it's about asking, kilograms of CO2 per square meter. That's the biggest impact. And how can you redesign your product? Don't tell me that you're reducing 10% your energy in your factory, or even 50%. Tell me about how do you redesign your product so that it has less impact. And there is another paradigm that we need to make the shift as well, which is the systems paradigm. It's about don't only make the life cycle assessment of a car, you also need to make the life cycle assessment of a transport system of a city. And then you can maybe come up with something different in the system with other different products that makes a better a different scenario, and you can cut the impacts dramatically by changing products, by changing the system. And that's something I'd like to talk briefly later. This double shift paradigm. So I'll start with the first one. I'll give some examples of the things we've seen at Interface. And the example of interface is interesting because we have such a simple product like a carpet, where you can expand, this thinking then to other products. So we will see with something very simple as a carpet. The first thing I'd like to say is that in many times, what we see is CEOs of companies talking all this bullshit about sustainability is embedded in our DNA, and we know that it's not really embedded into the DNA of a company if it is not embedded in the products or the services that this company is doing. So, it's cheap to claim that everything is embedded into your DNA and you embed it into the processes, but at the end of the day, the most important thing that the company has is their product. So, if you have a product which has zero carbon, if it is a product that is 100% recycled, if it is a product which has strong socioeconomic impact, then you can be talking about embedding into your DNA, because products and services is the DNA of a company. And the only way to assess what is the environmental impact of a product is to do a proper life cycle assessment. And for a carpet tile, you have that most of the impact is in the raw materials. Anybody would imagine where would be the biggest impact of a car or an air conditioning unit? Where in those 5 stages of the life of the product would be the best, the highest impact? I'd like just to have a pause so you think where it would be. And it would be on the use and maintenance. Because when you are using a car, when you are using an air conditioning, when you are using a machine, the biggest impact is on the energy that machine is using. But think about those 2 types of products. A physical product like a carpet, like a chair, where most of the impact is in the raw materials. Again, most of the impact is outside what the company is having. So reducing the impact of reducing the energy in your factories is not that much, because your factories, at the end of the day, they just assemble products. Most of the impact is outside those factories. So it's about changing the raw materials. And for a car, it's about making the car more efficient so that it consumes less energy. So it's about lightweighting, it's about smart technologies, etc. But both of the products are both of the sustainability-related solutions are about product design, and that's a really key thing. Sustainability is a lot about product redesign, coming up with new raw materials and coming up with new ways of designing a given product. So for interface, knowing that most of the impact is in our raw materials, then we went further and we went material by material, and we discovered that most of the impact is on the actual fiber. And most of our carpet is made of nylon, and that's the fiber. It was a really hard pill to swallow for a carpet manufacturer, because what makes carpet a carpet is where it has the biggest impact. And this is what sometimes life cycle assessment tells you. It tells you this big elephant in the room that you don't want to hear, that nobody wants to hear. But once you start getting into the facts, then you can have a strategy, a sound sustainability strategy. Otherwise, sustainability strategies of companies are about do-goodism. It's about marketing claims. It's about nice things to do, but they never address the elephant in the room. And once we started to face this elephant in the room, we discovered that it was quite easy what we could do actually. Can you make carpet with less fiber in the first place? Can you make carpet with recycled fiber so you cut off all the impact? And can you invent a new carpet? a new fiber with less impact. And this is the three type of things we're doing now at Interface, and this is our main core sustainability strategy. I'll give you an example. We came up with this is product innovation, and it's product innovation at the core of the company. And the corest thing that this company has is their tufting. Let's say tufting is like weaving. Let's say it's our tufting competencies. So we changed those processes so we could make carpet with 300 grams of yarn instead of the typical 700 grams, so 50% less yarn. That will reduce the impact dramatically. And it's already quite a lot of the products that we sell. It's not just a case study. It's a key part of the products we sell. The second thing we said was, can we make carpet with recycled nylon? Because nylon has such a big impact. Can we recycle? And the inventors of nylon, DuPont, in the 90s told us that it was impossible to recycle nylon. And we've been working since then with several of our suppliers, and we can offer already today in the market 368 colors with 100% recycled nylon. And the way we do it is we take any old nylon 6 fiber from either our old carpet or fishing nets or anything that has nylon. We take this to our suppliers, and we convince one supplier to invest in a repolymerization plant, and that plant can repolymerize, can make new monomers. So they take the nylon polymer, make new polymer, and then they polymerize again. And if you combined these two things, a Superflat carpet with 100% recycled nylon, what you can achieve is pretty dramatic impact reductions on a product. And this is the same that the car industry has been doing for their products, but instead of reducing the impacts of the raw materials, they have been redesigning the car so that it uses less petrol. This is about this auto start stop, lightweighting materials, etc., etc., etc. So product redesign can have dramatic impacts, reductions. Also, I'd like to talk about inventing new yarns, and this is something we have been pioneering last year. We came up with the first bio-based nylon. And this bio-based nylon comes from castor oil. It's castor oil, a crop that is good for in terms of socioeconomic benefits because it can fetch revenue over 10 times its input cost. So it's additional because castor oil grows in land which is unsuitable for other things, so that it also doesn't compete with food crops. So castor oil is a very good crop in terms of because it grows in marginal land, they need little water, and they grow very, very quickly. Now, this is in terms of product redesign. But what is happening in the market, and the problem that I see in the market, is that today marketing is based on 100% something. Is buy my product, is carbon neutral, or buy mine is 100% natural, or buy mine is organic, or buy mine is cradle to cradle certified, or certified this, or whatever. And the problem is that there are so many labels, there are so many claims, which is impossible to find which is the right product. And at the end of the day, sustainability is much more complex than that, and you don't really know what is the one that has more impact unless you do a proper life cycle assessment. And that's why the EU, a couple of weeks ago, released the guidance on what the EU called product environmental footprint. Everybody has to calculate the LCA in a certain way. That's why you need product category rules, etc. But this is too detailed. I won't enter into that. So we have committed that for every product that we put on the market, we will have an EPD, Environmental Product Declaration. An Environmental Product Declaration tells you every raw material that the product has, all the impacts of the product across its whole life cycle, and this is done in a way that is standardized for all the flooring in Europe. So the flooring industry have come together to standardize and agree a product category rule that then we all can report. So our customers, they don't need to go through all these different labels. They just say, okay, this carpet has 20 kilograms of CO2, this one has 5, I know which one to choose. And this idea of fact-based marketing is very important and is already mandatory for some sectors, and we are really lobbying to make this mandatory environmental performance data mandatory for all sectors. And look at what is happening in the car industry. Everybody knows about grams of CO2 per kilometer, and every car manufacturer has to report that figure in their advertising, in their point of sale, and that has driven a huge amount of improvement in that industry. I'll talk later a little bit more on that. And the way why this has happened is old school legislation originated in the European Commission. And the Americans are now doing a little bit the same. And the first thing that the European Commission, to regulate a sector like cars, asked was, what is the biggest issue? And the biggest issue for a car is the energy at use. And then how do you measure that? And you measure in the grams of CO2 per kilometer driven. And that becomes what we call the magic metric. That's the metric that everybody has to focus on. And the first thing you do from the policy point of view is that you have a mandatory goal for the industry on that metric. So in Europe, by 2020, all car manufacturers have to achieve 95% grams of CO2 per kilometer on average. If they don't achieve that, they pay a fine. That creates a lot of drive to improve. The second thing is what we talked before, the mandatory displaying of that metric on advertising and point of sale. What that creates? That creates literacy in the customers, so that today my mom knows that 200 grams of CO2 is a lot and 99 is quite okay. And you don't need any labels, you don't need any certifications, you don't need all of these bureaucratic, useless things that are already on the market, because you just have the metric. The third thing that this magic metric enables is that you can tax what has a lot of impact and tax less the things that have less impact. So if you are in the UK, you could have a company car, you pay more taxes if your company has more CO2, and the other way around. If you are in France, you have the bonus-malus system. The same with road tax. You pay more tax if you have more CO2. And you can go further and give more incentives at city level. Like in London, for example, you don't pay congestion charge for cars with less than 99 grams of CO2. You can have free parking for low-carbon cars in some cities, etc. And this is creating a huge revolution in the car industry. And we are still, at interface, we are finding ourselves that we have products with 20 kilograms of CO2 and some products we have 5 kilograms of CO2, and they both pay the same taxes. So how can you convince customers to buy those products? That's why legislation, we think, is absolutely key in order to drive product sustainability. It drives innovation if the legislation is done nicely, and it puts a level playing field. Because otherwise, the people who come up with sustainable innovations might not be at an advantage. And then you can apply the same thinking into buildings. Why are we paying the same stamp duty for an efficient house and an inefficient house? Why are you paying the same city council tax, etc.? So this is coming for buildings, and hopefully we'll get there soon. So this is how you deal with product sustainability from the company and innovation point of view, and from the policy making point of view. And now we need to think also about the bigger picture, systems sustainability, because you can cut by half the impact of a car, but then you can also look at redesigning the transport system of a city, and then maybe you don't need cars. You can substitute some things. And that's what they call the radical paradigm, is looking at systems, and it's also substituting things. And radical sustainability for me is about growth. It's about your company finding growth places where you substitute the bad stuff, the old stuff. That's the sustainable growth. And I'll give you several examples on that later on. And it's about zeroing. It's about decreasing the impact by cannibalizing the others. Can you come up with a substitute of oil? Can you come up with a substitute, or something that makes something more efficient, and then you cannibalize electricity, etc.? We'll look at that later. And I'll start by giving you a very simple and stupid example on a carpet. We came up with a way to install a carpet substituting the glue. So you can install one of these stickers at the back of 4 tiles, so the tiles stick to each other but don't stick to the floor. So you don't pollute the floor because you don't have this glue. It can be easy to recycle, etc. So basically, with these stickers, what we are doing is substitute the glue. And this is the idea of sustainability. You expand into a market where you weren't present before, and you substitute something else. It's what Apple did to the music industry, what Apple did to the media industry. We need to find these new disruptors, these new or old companies that they expand into other sectors and they cannibalize let's say, the old guys. And it's about looking at where is your core competence and how can you expand into those sectors. So what is the core competence of a carpet company like us? It's about modularity. And it's about making things modular that can be easy to install, easy to deinstall. That's why this sticker is very good for our market. Also, our core competence is that we have a network of commercial offices and sales guys all over the world. So the same person that sells you the carpet can sell you the sticker. That's why it's very natural for us to expand into that market. So you need to think about what is the core competence of your company and which niche markets, which other adjacent markets you could expand by cannibalizing other things. And that's what, look at the core competence of a supermarket. If you are a supermarket, you have people going through your shops every week, and that's your core competence, so that instead of only selling them groceries, you also sell them loans and mobile phone contracts and whatever. And then some supermarkets, from the sustainability point of view, they're saying, okay, why don't we sell them green electricity? Because people are going to trust a supermarket more than a utility. People are starting to offer, Green Deal. Retailers starting to offer Green Deal, but they started to offer, solar panels, etc. It's about substituting and expanding to an adjacent market by your core competence. Very interesting. What, for example, the internet and technology companies such as IBM, they're looking at an opportunity, multi-billion opportunity to enter into the building space in terms of smart buildings, so that they place technologies that makes buildings more efficient. So they substitute electricity and gas. So the money that the users of buildings are paying for gas and electricity, they can pay up front for technologies that then save the gas and electricity. So the sustainability is always about winners and losers. And this is the intersector war. There is a war between different sectors. Is the insulation industry versus the utilities. So, for example, there is an industry selling insulation materials in the building space, which is cannibalizing the gas and the utilities. And that's this intersector war is the most interesting at systems level. And you can take this example stream even if you have such a simple and humble product such as a carpet tile. What are we cannibalizing here? We're cannibalizing the walls. We are telling our architects, you don't need walls in interior spaces. Why don't you use the carpet? Why don't you use the color of the carpet to create, the limitations of the space, to redesign? Carpet, you can with carpet and this interior design features where you can create a wall very quickly. You can have flexibility. So tomorrow a meeting room becomes a kitchen, and tomorrow, a shared space becomes, a sort of an office, etc. So you can have the flexibility playing with that. So we are cannibalizing the walls, and we're cannibalizing the impacts that the walls are having, and the pain that goes to the walls, etc. So you can go very wacky in thinking about expanding to adjacent markets and disrupting those markets. And just very briefly I'd like to talk on closing the loop. Obviously what we want to avoid is landfill. Waste to energy is waste of energy, so it's a least bad option, but it's not that great. And at the end of the day, you can reuse your product a little bit, 5-10%, but at the end of the day, the game in town is recycling. And you can close the loop naturally with the biodegradable materials, but at the end of the, this is good for products that can go to the earth, like food or food packaging or things like that. It's good to think about how can be biodegradable, but most of the materials is best kept in the technical loop. And there are two types of what people call recycling. And one thing is downcycling, which is recycling a mobile phone into cement is not very clever. It's downcycling. It's putting products and raw materials of high value into low value. And like for like recycling, it's separating the different raw materials of a given product and recycling each raw material into the same raw material. And that's one of the things we're doing in our process. That's our process in Holland, where we take the carpet, enters our machine, and then it's separated into yarn to yarn, and the backing of the carpet into backing of the carpet. And many people don't think about this idea of modularity. But if you want to have a closed loop system, you need modularity. And modularity, making your product modular, allows you to take back your product. Imagine the logistics of getting this carpet back. If it was a typical broadloom roll carpet, it would be a logistical nightmare. So having modularity at the core of the design principle of your product is absolutely key in order to take back the product, and still is very difficult. And the problem is that in some countries, like Spain, my country, throwing away is still cheaper than recycling because the landfill fields are very small. So you cannot really compete against that, and that's what we need to also lobby the governments so they increase the landfill gate fees. And in many cases, sustainability is not a win-win in many of the innovations, but that doesn't mean that you cannot make money out of sustainability. Because if you change the rules of the game by changing the policy, changing the legislation, then you could be at a huge competitive advantage. I'd like to end with a couple of thoughts on culture and why sustainability is important. Would you like to work for a carpet company? You probably say no, because it's a very unsexy sector. And we still have to recruit. And that's why if we phrase the question on differently. Would you like to work for a company with mission zero? It's a different question, because people, want to have some meaning in their jobs. People want to have some meaning in their lives, and we spend lots of time of our lives at work. So giving this meaning to the lives of people is absolutely huge. So we are finding, in terms of employee attraction, in terms of employee happiness and retention, and giving this meaning to life is a key. And appealing to a higher ground, appealing that you are working for a company that is going to make history by showing other companies that sustainability and profitability is possible. This is very key, to appeal to that higher ground. Just to end, I'd like to talk about about people ask me whether sustainability pays or not, and many people look at sustainability in the old school of efficiency, by your factory, saving money in your factories. Yes, it's good, but it's not the key. Many people also think, no, sustainability is about corporate reputation and corporate communications, and then, being in the most admired companies. Yes, for us it has paid tremendously. Being a humble carpet manufacturer, doing this webinar with such an incredible number of companies is huge for us. But I think this is still all in the old sustainability thinking. Most of the interesting things happen around people. When you talk about people retention, but the sustainability of today is about innovation and this intersector war of companies stealing each other market share by substituting their products one to the other, by coming up with different business models and all of that. So that around systems thinking, around innovation, and around coming up with different ways is key. And I think with the spiraling cost of raw materials, a future competitive advantages for many systems would be to having a closed loop system where you can recover. Now, steel is difficult because the supply chains are very fragmented, legislation is patchy, but there is still ways in where you can make money out of recycling your own stuff. And we are not there yet at Interface, but we see that this could have could be a huge competitive advantage for us. I'd like to stop here and then take some questions.
Well, thanks a lot, Roman. Thanks a lot. It's fascinating how you can link the hard science of sustainability and really bringing back to what really matters and cut the fluff and link that to business talking, business opportunities, top line growth, and that really helps to know what is important in terms of the good things we want to achieve for the planet and people, and also look at the aspirational things in terms of business development. So if you have questions, it's time for you to type them in the Q&A box. I'd like maybe to open that Q&A session with one question on a topic that you briefly touched on towards the end around culture. This whole Mission Zero has been led by Ray Anderson for almost 16, 17 years. And then the company lost his historical charismatic leaders a couple of years ago. So what has changed since at Interface? Could you feel a loss of momentum, or on the contrary, people sticking together to carry on the journey? What has happened over the last 2 years, Roman?
Ray was it was for him that we started this journey, and it was up to his charisma and his continuously, pushing many people in our organization, they are doing this for Ray because his charisma. So I think it was absolutely fundamental. And now Mission Zero is so high up in the agenda that we are, the culture is there. You can touch it. As a sustainability director, I never have any issue justifying that any initiative because Mission Zero is sacrosanct. So this is in the culture. With regards to the culture, I'd like to touch into other thing, which is about status. I'm now in Germany, and you can see that in Germany, what gives status is being a doctor. Someone to have a PhD gives you status in Germany. It doesn't give you any status in the UK or in even less in Australia. But in Germany, that's what gives you a status. In some companies, what is giving you a status? It is given a status whether you have a nice office or whether you have a nice car. And if you want sustainability to be big in your companies, you need to attach status to sustainability. And one of the things we do is to have this ambassadors program where it's voluntary. People can go and join this program. But you make the executives be part of the program. You make the program difficult to make so that people have a sense of belonging to a special club. That's what you attach status to the club. And then you give them information that other people don't have. So information is power. And that becoming an ambassador isn't a status thing. And that's why it's really important. And that creates under the culture. And I think now culture, culture is, you cannot, I don't think culture is created by HR programs or internal comms programs and all of that. Usually it's not credible. This top-down programs for companies is just corporate bullshit, and people see through that. People see that companies have an agenda for these things. And at the end of the day, if you are serious about culture, you need to let the culture grow. And you let the culture grow by the day-to-day and focusing on the most core thing of a company, which is the products. And when you have a commitment to radically change the impact of the products, then the culture starts to change. Because then the decisions made around raw materials start to change, the conversations with your suppliers start to change, the conversation around marketing starts to change because then you are marketing a genuinely sustainable product rather than coming up with the labels and all of that. And then you provide the facts to the customers so they are open about the impact. So the whole culture then starts changing by the product. Mm. So my advice would be focus on product redesign, radically redesigning your products, and then your culture will follow because it would be on your sustainability would be on your day to day.
Yeah, absolutely. That reminds me of my own experience in the industry. We talk about a lot about labels for consumers, etc. But starting with your own staff, you can't fool your own staff. They're experts of what you're doing. So if you're fooling around with labels, awards, etc., and you're not tackling the real issue, they know about it, and they don't take the whole sustainability initiative seriously. That's what you get.
Exactly.
To go back to a businessy question, you also touched on the closing the loop, cradle to cradle, and linked to that the whole product to service shift. How is that happening with Interface in terms of volume, in terms of business? You say you're doing more, but how important is that in terms of business for you today? And what are the barriers to do more?
Okay, I think there are different things around product and service. One is the expanding to an adjacent market. So we have developed this sticker that takes us into new market, which is going very well. And we're selling already like 30% of our business is already with this new glue, this new substitute of glue. And that creates barriers to enter to other companies, because once the architects play with this stickers, then they specify it, and if the competitors don't have these stickers, because it's a patented thing, then we sell our product. So that's a key competitive advantage for us. And sustainability, when you see sustainability in a way of creating a barrier to entry to a competitor, is huge in terms of the other one. In terms of product systems, I'd like to touch a little bit on that. Because in the 90s we said we would lease carpet instead of selling, and we have tremendously failed into that. And I'll give you some explanations on why. First of all, when you lease something, you need a residual value at the end of the life of that product. So a car costs 30,000. After 3 years, is 15,000. There is a residual value. Therefore, a bank would finance that. The residual value of carpet is negative because you need to pay the landfill gate fee. So no bank would finance that. Also, you lease or you rent a whole functional unit, meaning that, for a car is the whole the product with the service and everything, so you don't have to worry anymore. But carpet is the wheel of a car. Would you rent a wheel of a car? No, you wouldn't. You want the whole thing. So you want the office space. And office space is what other companies, very clever, are doing it. And they are buying different products from us, from floor, from ceilings and walls, etc. And they create magnificent spaces that then they rent and they squeeze those assets. So there are other people cannibalizing us, let's say, on that. Who is going to do the product service system for a drill? Is going to be Black & Decker, or is going to be B&Q, Homebase, and Leroy Merlin? Is it going to be those retailers squeezing the assets of the product manufacturers? So you need to be at the right part of the supply chain in relation to the customer to do the product service shift. And I don't believe in product companies doing that shift because they are good at coming up with products and they don't have the relations. And there is nothing to gain from them. Who did the service system in the car industry? Was BMW? No. Was Zipcar cannibalizing cars? And then the others have to adjust. This innovation at product system level always comes from someone with nothing to lose. It won't come from the incumbents. It comes from someone with nothing to lose, taking and disrupting a market.
Right. A very specific question from the audience. Hans Scheck asked, are there any environmental reporting standards specifically for carpet?
If environmental product declarations, can be applied to any product, and there is some specific product category rules. It's called EN 15804 for the building industry. So from carpets to anything for construction, and then under that product category rule, there is a product category rule for flooring, and that's where our EPDs are for. So yes, you can go to apply for that standard to something called GUT, which is the Institute for Carpet and Environment based in Germany, but it's European. So there is.
All right. Okay. To go back to communicating to consumers, the examples you gave with the magic metrics were all linked to energy efficiency, which is something that has cost implications for users, and also relates to a global environmental issue of climate change. How does that work for other environmental issues that maybe don't have such a direct impact on people's costs or lives,
Very good point. To differentiate that, there, I'd like to cut into into a matrix. B2B and consumers, different animals, and whether there is something in for them, like efficiency and costs, or nothing for them. So in B2B, B2B is a market where people make decisions based on cold facts. They are professionally paid people to make decisions on what they buy, what do they design, etc. So for us, the person who is, the corporate purchasing manager for, a big bank in the city for the new office, that's the type of person, and they pay quite a, more than you would think to the environmental impact of carpet. So if the data is available, they would take it into account. An architect, the same. They are, hard. They're science. They're hard data people. But my mom in the supermarket is not. Also, these guys, B2B, they make big purchasing, so they make bulk purchasing, so they could take they could bother to research what is more or less sustainable. But my mom in the supermarket, or yourself, when you go to the supermarket, you buy 200 things in 1 hour. Would you care? Would you bother? And of course not. And that's what we shouldn't expect, that consumers choose a sustainability, a product, a toothbrush, or an apple, because it has, 1 or 2 kilograms of CO2 less. I think we should, as the sustainability movement, need to make strong choices and concentrate in bothering consumers for what really matters. Your car, and then when I mean car is the transport, which has a lot of impact, which is buildings that consume, a lot of impact as well. And then I think we need to focus on agriculture, which leads to the point of, okay, so how do we make consumers to think about the environmental impact of different agricultural products in terms of, let's say, food. And food is high impact, like meat and certain types of meat, and low impact. So how do you make customers to buy food with less impact? It's not about labeling. It's not about EPDs. It's about, first of all, you tax the stuff with a high impact, and then also you create consumer awareness and strong policy linked to the advice from doctors, etc. on food. So I think there are many ways, but I really don't believe that there is a trend of fooling naive green customers into thinking that they're doing the right thing by buying a green umbrella or a green toothbrush. This is bullshit and won't make any difference, just making these green naive people a little bit happy, but to be honest, it doesn't make any difference. So right. Let's really bother consumers on the big picture, which is about the big impact stuff like a house or or a car.
Right. Yeah. But
at the same time, let's put more of responsibility into the retailers and the governments, because we could ask responsibility to the retailers to manage their portfolio so that they sell more of the stuff with less impact and less of the stuff with more impact. And this is the elephant in the room for retailers. They never talk about that, and we need to push retailers into that. Otherwise, they won't take the accountability.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Talking of government and regulations, do you think that you can achieve mission zero with the current legal framework, or will you need radical changes in legislation?
We can cut our direct impacts by zero, fine. We can make big steps into coming up with alternative raw materials. In some of them, they would be cost effective. In some of them, maybe we need to pay a slight premium, so that if government would tax products. So if you, for example, if they would tax, I don't know, this is an example. It shouldn't be VAT, but if you pay more VAT for higher carbon, that would give us a competitive advantage, and then this more raw materials could be switched more quickly to sustainable raw materials. That's one initiative which can be extremely interesting, and that what gives you this transparency. This idea of transparency gives the power of having variable product taxes according to different impact. That would be huge. But okay, so in that sense, that would help. What I don't see today is a solution on taking back products, because the landfill gates are not that high, and in the countries that the landfill gates are very high, then you have a overcapacity of waste to energy plants, which makes cheaper to burn things. So real recycling is tricky. Also, there is no incentive for companies to redesign their products so they are a single raw material that then becomes easier to recycle or easy to dismantle, because there is no reassurance that this product will go to you. Product might go to a competitor or to the benefit of the recycler. So somehow we need some policy intervention there, which is extremely difficult.
Right. And maybe one final question before we wrap up. You mentioned B&Q. A couple of webinars ago, we had B&Q CEO Ian Shisha, who talked about net positive. Your motto is Mission Zero, and you said recently in an interview with Tom Idle from 2 Degrees that getting there is probably not realistic. You're going to get close to there, but not completely there. And that seems it's a different discourse from that of B&Q and Lafarge that talk about net positive, creating net creation of value. So what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's all marketing, to be honest. Both Mission Zero and their stuff is all marketing bullshit, to be honest. And I think Mission Zero is it's about how do you define it. So if you define it around radically reducing the impact of your life cycle in your products, that's the one thing. So you look at the second paradigm that I mentioned. So that's around Mission Zero, not only getting your company, but looking at redesigning your product so that it has 4 or 5 times less impact. That's one. And then the other one is what I've been saying around the systems paradigm. So when I look at the positive, the net positive, and the idea of the net positive by substituting the impact of other things, or giving people the stuff and the services that they would improve their lives with little impact, I'm all for that. So both combined in the second paradigm and the third paradigm would be transformative. The concern I have is that some companies are jumping and using the whole net positive thing just as a PR and still not playing in the product paradigm. Because I cannot see any retailer that they don't manage their portfolio. I want retailers to show me that they have plans to substitute their high impact products, and they have plans to introduce new products with less impact and other products that would cannibalize the impact of other industries. At the end of the day, this should be the bottom line. And you can call it net positive or Mission Zero or whatever, but this is the bottom line. What I'm really skeptical is that companies use the whole net positive and then they jump the second paradigm of product impacts and managing their portfolio and managing that. I think that is this cannot be cannot happen. I don't want that net positive is offset, 2.0.
Right.
Because we had already the same thing with carbon neutral. Carbon neutral looked good, positive. Obviously, the marketing guys jumped at it, and then it became a whole mango jumbo of claims and positiveness, false positiveness.
Right. All right. So thanks a lot, Raman. As one of the participants commented, it's real sustainability is about being honest, bold, and innovative, and that's what you brought us today. I'd like to remind everyone that you recently released the book, Full Product Transparency: Cut the Fluff Out of Sustainability, which is published by Dow Sustainability. So yeah, thanks a lot for your time. The next session will take place in a month on the 22nd of May with a slightly different format, as we'll have a WWF and H&M double act. Both organizations have indeed formed a strategic partnerships with a particular focus on fresh water. So we'll have Jochen Verberner, Head of Corporate Relations, WWF International, and Helena Helmerson, Head of Sustainability at H&M. And, this is going to be, I think, a great opportunity to learn about one of the main environmental issues of this coming century and how central it is to business sustainability, and also to learn about how a leading environmental NGO like us and a multinational can collaborate. So thanks, everyone, for joining. Thanks to Degrees for hosting the One Planet webinars. And again, thanks a lot to Raman for your time and openness. Have a great day, everyone. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.